Welcome to the Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me another episode of Strategy with Jason. Today, I have a very special guest, so not too far north of me, but we're going to have a great conversation around commission versus salary and video lead response and kind of transferable talents and just all kinds of fun stuff. So I'd like to introduce you to Yvan, and I'm going to try. I think I said that wrong. I probably did.
You're getting good, Jason. I appreciate it. Thanks for the effort.
Hey, for everyone out there that's watching and listening and don't know who you are and kind of how you got started in the industry, let's start off with a little origin story. So how did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Well, like everybody else, I think I stumbled on the industry. I knew somebody here at Mercedes-Benz in Moncton, happened to be the general manager. I spoke with him a little bit. I asked him to go for coffee, and we talked about the potential of me joining the team. And I think it was 3.5 days later, here I was. So as the industry moves quickly, so did my decision. I had to make a quick decision. So.
I love when people kind of stumble their way into it. So I'm curious. You were in the hospitality industry, and then just one day you're like, I should try car sales. Did like walk me through that? How did you go from hospitality to car sales?
I went from hospitality industry to selling fire alarm safety equipment, and that definitely was too far left. It was not something for me. So. There was some amalgamation that happened, and next thing you know, I was looking for something else, and that's how I stumbled to the car industry.
I love it. I love hearing how people kind of get into it. Like I said, I find either people stumble their way into it. I think, you know what, it's funny. I actually had someone on a podcast a month ago who get this, was actually a rocket scientist, like a legitimate rocket scientist turned car salesman. So it's so funny how people just kind of stumble their way into the industry, but we're so glad that you became a part of this industry.
Yeah. It's amazing. I've been getting calls for the last couple of years of people that I know that reached out to me and say, look, I know you've gone from hospitality to car sales. I'm thinking of making a move myself. Can you give me some pointers? Tell me how you feel about it. And even this morning, I reached out to somebody again saying, look, don't forget you can give me a call anytime. I'd be willing to assist you and guide you into this.
Well, I think there's a lot of potential in our industry, so I'm glad that you're here. And I find that I've had a lot of people in the hospitality industry actually work with me in the business, and they've turned out to be some just amazing people, which is I think one of the topics we're actually going to talk about today. We're going to talk about transferable talents, but I think right now the first one I want to kind of talk about, because it's kind of based on what the origin story you just tell me, is there's a stigma in our industry. There's a stigma about being a car salesman. So I'm just kind of curious for you. Did you have any issues with becoming a car salesman? Did any of your family, did you go home and like tell everybody, hey, I want to be a car salesman, and everyone was like, yay? Or did they look at you a little differently?
Yeah, it was one of my big concerns. I had a big personal problem with the idea behind it, the stigma, and mainly because of the level of service I'm giving to my clients in the hospitality industry over my career. And I kept trying to put that in my head, is that, can I do this? Can I give the same level of service? And how are people going to see me, all car sales? So it was a battle in my mind. But funny enough, my family and everybody was super amazingly supportive. Awesome. And thought it was a great idea. So God knows that maybe I'm the only one with that.
No, it's good. Like I do remember, coming home telling my mom I was going to sell cars, and she did do one of these. She put her head down and kind of just shook it back and forth. It was like, why? Out of all the things you can do, Jason, why are you going to go be a car salesman? Now, funny enough, she's so happy I did get into the industry, because it's provided such an amazing opportunity for me and my family. The one thing I kind of want to go into, which you kind of touched on already, is a little bit about, that customer experience. You have people that reach out to you because of the connections that you've made prior to even getting into the business, and that says a lot about you as an individual. And I think it was one of the things we actually kind of connected on. Definitely one of the things I've kind of absorbed from looking at your social media efforts is that you truly care about that experience. And what I think I'm going to applaud you for here is that you didn't, either knowingly or unknowingly, you didn't expect the dealership to provide the experience. You felt immediately it was your responsibility to provide the experience. So kind of walk me through, like, why is that? Why do you feel so convicted it's your responsibility to provide that experience?
I'm not sure why, but it has to be, you have to have it inside you. You have to want to. And I think that goes in every aspect of life. And for people that know me, they know that it doesn't matter if it's on a personal level or on a business level, they're going to get a consistent, very personable approach, meaningful approach. And every interaction I have with my clients, they often become friends, not close friends, but they become genuine friends over the period of that. And I think you're building trust, and they feel that you're sincere in that approach as well.
Now, is that something that's just, I mean, is that always kind of been, an intention of yours is to connect with people and kind of get to that space? Or because I'm always kind of curious, because look, I got to be honest with you, I'm one of the first people to admit that that is actually not a natural thing for me. It is not a natural thing for me to just connect with a random stranger and try to get to, a place, I guess, of intent to want to serve, that other person. Like that necessarily wasn't in me. Now, of course, over the years I've developed it, but for yourself, has that just always been a part of kind of your mindset, or is that something you constantly have to kind of train yourself on?
Yeah, well, I probably was trained at a young stage. Both my parents have restaurants, so I grew up in the restaurant industry. So serving people and people's, clients becoming part of the extended family. So again, I think we're trained that way. It comes, you have it inside of you, and I just never let it go. I feel genuine when I talk to every single person that comes here, and I think I take satisfaction out of that I've done it my best, and hopefully they see that I'm sincere, and I just love it.
No, you know what though? I find that true though. With a lot of look, I've had the opportunity to interview some amazing salespeople in our industry. Not only just from a volume perspective, but just from a profitability perspective, but just a branding perspective. And that is one thing I find consistent among all of them is that they almost get a high. Like they get a high off of connecting with others, and being able just to sell them a car. Well, that's just a cherry on the top. But
Yeah.
their sole goal is to just connect with others. So I think that's really cool. We were talking a little bit before we started recording about customer expectations, and right now I'm with the consumer. The way the consumers change, it's not enough that we just meet the expectation, especially in the car business. It's not enough that we just sell them a car, right? I think, the customer has been almost conditioned to expect that we exceed the expectations, not just meet the expectations. And I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on how, as salespeople, we can exceed those customers' expectations.
For sure. And, as we know, with COVID-19, everything now is done a lot more so remotely. So people are at home, they're browsing the internet, they might find a car that interests them on your site, and then they click and they send you a little lead. So on our end, for them, it was just a simple click requesting information. So first of all, they expect maybe a response, maybe not. So it's all about that first response and the information. First of all, you answer the questions. You might have just one or two questions. So the first thing would be to answer that question, but give them a little bit something else. And nowadays with technology, we're able, and I love to respond with a video. So I'll do a quick video. I can be home in my kitchen. I'll do a quick little intro video, putting a face to the name, answering their question. and then inviting them to ask me something else, and telling them what's going to be the next step is I'm going to follow up with a copy of the Carfax. If it's a pre-owned vehicle, I'm going to follow up with the inspection report. If it's a new vehicle or pre-owned vehicle, we'll do a walk-around, personalized walk-around video for them. So as I do these steps for them, they know what to expect, and I believe I exceeded their expectation as well.
Well, I actually think that's really cool because if you ever think about how you could potentially exceed someone's expectation, the meet and greet is definitely one of them, right? When I first started in this business, I had this manager. No, at the time I thought he was a total dick. Now, of course, over the years, I think I've kind of maybe understood some of his methodologies a little bit better. But he had this thing where, as a salesperson, you couldn't sell a car that day unless you could properly verbatim repeat the meet and greet to him. So every single morning, everyone would line up. I feel like it was like schoolyard. We'd all line up, and we'd have to go one by one, shake his hand, and verbatim do the meet and greet. And if we couldn't do it, we got sent home for the day, and we weren't allowed to sell cars that day. Now the industry's changed a lot, but look, back then I thought the guy was just a total dick. Now what I'm realizing is really what he was doing is he was conditioning us in what we say to consistently execute a good meet and greet, because it's that first impression. If we ever want to see someone's expectations, it's that first impression. I'll give you an example. Before COVID, back in February, I was visiting a hotel. And I pulled up to the hotel, and before I could even open the door, there was someone there to kind of open the door and help me with my luggage, and immediately said, "Hey, Mr. Harris, welcome back." Wait a second. Do I know you? Like, how did you? Wait a second. What was that? Okay. So now, of course, that piqued my interest for a while. I asked him, I said, "Wow, that's really cool. How do you know my name?" And he goes, "Well, when you pulled up, we actually we have your license plate number on record because when you filled out your reservation, you put that in there for valet purposes." I said, "Oh yeah, that's right. I do remember doing that." And they're like, "Well, we pulled that information up, so that's how we're able to do that." I'm like, "Wow." Talk about within the first 15 seconds exceeding someone's expectations, just by being able to call their name out. And you're doing that with your video lead response, right? And real quick, guys, I don't know if you heard what he said, but he said he actually does it in the kitchen. So that means a lead comes in, even if he's not at the dealership, you still respond with the video. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
Absolutely, that's what you heard.
See, I think that's just super cool. I don't think there's enough. I think people are so worried about creating videos sometimes that they're not even willing to do it at home. But walk me through. How you embraced video as exceeding someone's expectations.
Well, I think video is really to show that you're human, right? So they're expecting a little email, probably trying to convince them to come into the dealership. That's kind of been the ways it's been done over the years. That being said, the video is really to show them that I'm here, I'm a person, I want to acknowledge you and thank you for reaching out to me, and I'm personally showing you who I am.
Well, you're setting the stage. You're setting the stage, right? Think about it. Over 80% of what we say doesn't actually come out in the words that we say, right? It's tonality, it's eye contact, it's body language. All right. Everybody knows when I start getting worked up, my hands start flaring about all over the place, and they're just like, "Oh gosh, here he goes." In fact, it's funny watching some of my camera guys because they'll actually know. Like they'll start to see my hands move, and they almost kind of get ready for it because they're like, he's going to say something because he's getting worked up. But there's so much.
I'm French. I talk with my hands all the time, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But that says a lot, right? If I'm trying to connect with someone within 15 seconds, I got 15 seconds to connect someone and set that first impression. All right, to show someone my intent to want to serve them. I don't think you can do that through black and white text, can you?
No, and the other thing is that they send multiple leads out, so everybody's going to respond differently. But I believe by sending them an intro video, I hope maybe not for long, but I'm separating myself from the masses, and hopefully I should at least my response rate when I do that is through the roof. If I just sometimes I'm lazy like everybody else, and I'll just send an email response, and all of a sudden, why are they not responding? Then I do another email response, and I don't hear back, and all of a sudden I do a couple videos, and boom, I hear back. So.
Because it shows you can hear it in your tonality, you can see it in your body language that you give a crap. You're excited, right? Like I don't know about you, but like I love working with people that are excited about what they do. Okay, I had a gentleman on a podcast a few weeks ago that was talking about regulatory compliancy. Now, that's not a very exciting thing to talk about. Let's just put it out there, right? But his passion for it was huge, and I got excited. And I'm sitting here, I'm finding myself like, why am I excited talking about, like regulatory compliancy and how I avoid liability? And like, I'm like, why am I excited about talking about these things? Is because that person's energy was exciting. And that's what you get. That's what you get when you connect with on a video. So here's my next question then for you when it comes to the video. You've been doing a lot of these. What would you say? Let's give me 3 best practices about shooting a video lead response.
All right. First one, I would say it doesn't have to be perfect. I think people they prefer that it is genuine. We talked about that a while ago when you fell on the ice or something along those lines, maybe not to that extent, but nonetheless, they like that it's not a full-blown Hollywood edit. Doesn't say that it has to be really rough. Secondly is in my case, and I've learned this right out of the gate, I was selling a car to somebody from Toronto, and it was a pre-owned Mercedes-Benz, and I made sure to show any flaws, any imperfection, and I did not want to hide anything, so transparency in the video is key. And I think second part is to be on cue. If you're going to tell them that you're going to follow up and send them a follow-up video or a walk-around video, well, you should do so in a decent response time. So not next week or in 2 weeks, but it should be fairly quick. And they will be astonished that you've given them all that information and in that short period of time.
I like that. I think one take. I'm with you on this, right? I think you make a mistake, you own it. In fact, sometimes I find people connect with us because of our mistakes. And I was talking to another gentleman recently that does a lot of video lead response, and sometimes he may even purposely throw in a little mistake just to kind of connect. Like, I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. I said, that's not a bad strategy. A little tricky, but I like that. And he's like, I'm like, what do you do? He goes like, I'll drop the phone. Like, I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I'll drop the phone, or I'll forget the keys for the car. And so, I'm out there and I'm like doing a walk around on the car, and I'm trying to show him it. And then I go to open the door, and the door doesn't open, and I don't have the keys. And I'm just like, and I just own it.
Damn, I don't have the keys.
Yeah, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot the keys, right? Oh, and then he just kind of takes the phone and shoves it up against the window and says, look inside there, and I'm just. But it's funny. It's just, it feels, I feel like just being a real person is how someone wants to connect. I mean, you were kind of talking about a story I told you when I first started doing video back in 2006, 2007. All right. Where, and back then you had to record, upload, then send via YouTube or something along that lines. And I had set the camera up on a tripod. It was a slippery floor because it was an indoor showroom. And I kind of ran and slid into into frame, and I fell on my ass. I totally fell on my ass. And then I popped right back up, and I acted like nothing happened, and I just continued to do it. And in my head, I was like, I'm just going to edit that out before I send it. Well, I forgot to edit it, and I sent it. And of course, then someone shared it, and it shared it, and it kind of was one of my first viral videos. And at first, my gut reaction was, I'm going to go delete this. I'm going to go delete this. This is horrible. But I let it go, and it actually brought me a lot of business because I think people just saw us as a person. So I love that one. That's a great one. And I love the other one of, you can't just end a video with like, okay, thanks, have a great day. You end a video with kind of that next step. Like, what are you going to do next, correct?
Absolutely. And the key there, though, is to make sure you follow up on those next steps. For a while, I was always doing that. And then I kind of slowed down. And next thing you know, like it was in the back of my mind, "Jeez, I didn't do what I promised I was going to say." So I stopped and reassessed everything. And now I give myself 3 or 4 good next steps that I think it's pertinent information for the client. And I make sure to follow that process. And every time I do that, the clients are thanking me, and it makes the experience from the right out of the gate, right to the end when we deliver the keys, a joyful experience. And to me, that is worth your time and effort, and you get a good feeling at the end that you've given that person a great experience, and it worked out for everybody.
That's awesome. Hey, I got a question for you. Kind of as we're talking, I'm thinking about this because I'm thinking, look, 7 to 10 years ago, when I was telling people to do video, they looked at me kind of cross-eyed, like, "No, I'm not going to do that," right? And which always kind of surprised me because, being a salesperson, I was just thought you just didn't have a whole lot of fear around putting yourself out there because as a salesperson, you have to put yourself out there. You go up to perfectly good strangers and you just put yourself out there. And I was always kind of surprised to find out how many of them weren't comfortable necessarily doing that in front of a camera because they already do it every single day. So I'm curious for you, like, well, it didn't actually, you know what? I guess not for you because it didn't sound like you had that fear. But for the people out there that are watching and listening that may have that fear of judgment, and they're not comfortable getting in front of a camera, what could you say to those individuals?
I'll start by saying I think everybody has that. It doesn't matter if you're a Hollywood star. I think that, at first, the first couple times, you're always going to have that little jitter and uneasy feeling. But it's like cold calling and, salesmen that are cold calling. At first, you do not want to go and knock on those doors. But you do it a couple times and it just gets easier and easier. And all of a sudden you love it. And I really enjoy doing it. And every now and then I'll record something and I'm a little hesitant. Should I post it? Should I not? But at the end of the day, I think you just got to put yourself out there and people are they're going to respect that quite a bit.
I like that. I've found, actually do have a process that I do play this game every once in a while with people who tell me they won't do video, right? And I usually go kind of, I do this with my kids actually. I do worst case scenario. Like, what's the worst case scenario that you put this video out there? Like, what do you think is going to happen, right? And we'll play through that. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the worst video you could potentially make? I could fall down, or I drop the phone, or I use a curse word. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now go do all of those videos first. And like purposely drop the phone, purposely say, "Shit, damn, crap, what did I just say?" Like just get it out of your system, right? I feel like, we were kind of talking about earlier of like owning our mistakes, right? And I feel like if we purposely kind of put ourselves into just I'm not necessarily saying you have to go send out these videos, but make these videos, watch them so that you can kind of own it. And then, you'll see we're like, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. If I drop the phone, It's not that bad.
I made one the other day. We had a little video contest going on here within the sales team, and I had to do one. I did one on the Sprinter vans because there's a market out there for the van life and conversion and that type. And I didn't really know what to do, and I didn't have any content. And we're in the middle of winter, and we don't have many vans here in inventory. So I just went and stepped in behind one of the empty cargo vans, and I started recording. And I recorded a bunch of stuff, and I ended up putting a little video together for the masses. And by far, it's not perfect, and it might not even be interesting. But I went and I put myself out there, and I did it, and I walked through it, and I listened to it, and I personally enjoy it because I went and put myself out there with something that is not a G-Wagon, right? So.
No, that's true, right? Actually, I think that's a good point. Actually, I think for anybody out there that's looking to get over their fear, is actually start with the hardest vehicle. Like, what is the hardest car on your lot to shoot a video about? And then go do that one first. Because to your point, you're absolutely right. If you got to shoot a video on a C63, That's pretty easy. If you gotta shoot a video
Absolutely.
on a a GT, or you have to shoot a video on an S class, it's usually pretty simple, right? The car kind of speaks for itself. You just gotta sit there and facilitate, but I think that's a great. I like that. That's a
Yeah.
really good way to kind of get over your fear. Is just go find the hardest vehicle possible and go do that one first, right? And that will just kind of. I find for us to get over fear, we have to push through fear, right? We have to,
Absolutely.
and we have to, and I think we can do that in a fun, comfortable place. And I think if you record a video like that, you can send it to your other salespeople, get them to watch it, get the laughs out, get the laughter out, just get past that judgment, right? And look, at the end of the day, producing video is going to be incredibly beneficial. Like, um, let's talk about this. You've had some great success, all right, with selling vehicles with video lead response. Give me a couple of your best examples that were just total home runs for you.
Well, I'll give you the first one. It was in my early stage of being here as I received the lead, and this is where before everybody was talking video, we were doing it from the get go. But this gentleman was from Toronto, and he was interested in this special pre-owned vehicle that from Mercedes that is rare. There's none. That's why he reached out to us. We had one. And I did a walk around video of this vehicle, and I showed him the little flaws. I showed him the certification process and what we've done to it to make sure it's fully certified and reconditioned. And the fact that I showed him little scratches on the bottom wheel well and maybe on the hood or on the rear
Yeah,
bumper
that's cool.
established trust with him. And from that, at the end, the home run was that he took a plane, he flew from Toronto and came here and picked up the vehicle and drove off with it. But then that just set the stage for other ones who we've done the same thing, but they simply bought it blind based on the video and the genuine approach to everything and the transparency to everything, where they didn't even come on site. We just shipped them directly to them. And to take another
That's
step
awesome.
is that right now, because of COVID, we have to do that. I've been shipping cars to Prince Edward Island last couple of months. I'm shipping one tomorrow to Northern New Brunswick. And this is all done from a distance. Everything. The client doesn't have to step into the dealership.
Yeah, that's one thing. If I hate to say if there's any silver lining, but if there's a silver lining here, this has. I mean, this is something you've been doing for a little over 3 years. So, the fact that as an industry, we're forced into a place where we have to communicate remotely, we have to connect from a distance. I mean, did you feel like you were just a little bit more prepared for this than others?
Uh, I certainly felt it. I had a discussion with management once we returned from the first lockdown. It's okay. Well, what are we doing for the second wave? Because history shows that there will be this second wave, and how can we approach that? And the consensus is really video, is transparency in video. And I know we cannot put them behind the wheel for a test drive, which normally seals the deal, but the video has been that test drive, I guess.
No, it's true. I mean, you have to create that trust factor to the point where someone feels confident that they can do an entire transaction that way. I'm curious because we were actually kind of talking about this before we started recording, was kind of the transferable of talents. And I'm just wondering for yourself if you feel like some of the talents that you've created being in the hospitality industry and your other experiences previously, do you feel like some of that got transferred into automotive and what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. I'm a strong advocate of transferable talent or skills, as I'm used to calling it, is that everything you do in your career over life, whether it's personal or through the career, you acquire skills. And in my case, the hospitality industry has made me who I am today in the auto industry, no doubt in my mind. And then, of course, when you're in the hospitality industry, you're a jack of all trades. So whether it's accounting, things like that, or detailing a car, I wasn't scared of rolling up my sleeves. So, these are all skills, and they're all attributes that you can bring to the table. And I would encourage anybody that's thinking about the auto industry to just take a look at themselves and what are they good at, and put that in their mind to see if they think they can help clients in the car
Mm-hmm.
industry with those
Mm-hmm.
skills.
No, it's true. I mean, look, I'll give you a funny story. One of the best managers I've ever had work for me was an ex kindergartner teacher. She was she was and funny because a lot of people go, "Did you just hire a kindergarten teacher to be your sales manager?" I said, "Absolutely, I did." And I hate to say it, but managing a team of salespeople in a lot of cases
We're
is
a bunch
very
of
similar.
kids.
Is very similar to managing a classroom full of kindergartners. But it was a transfer of those talents. But also what I found is that she was amazing at teaching and developing people because of her knowledge as a kindergarten teacher, all right? She knew that people took information differently and they took it at a different pace. And she was patient with everyone. And even the way she would even work a deal or pencil a deal was just had this level of patience that I just couldn't find it in anybody else out there. So that's a great example. You have a great example of kind of transferable talents. This was a great example, but yes, my a kindergarten teacher can most definitely manage a sales floor.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I'll give you one example if time permits.
Absolutely.
That happened to me just lately is that you talked about patience, and I had a client. It was a perfect client. The transaction was amazing, but at the end, it was as simple as we could not get run flat winter tires for his brand new vehicle. It's 2021 model. There's always different tire size, and tires are always running behind the sizes that manufacturers decide to make. And the deal almost blew apart just because of that. But you take your time and you listen to the client and you show empathy and you take it one step at a time. And in this case, I just took it slowly, and we ended up finding a solution. And when the CSI, our score for the survey, it was 100% all the way, and he put in long paragraphs about, that Mercedes was lucky to have me on board, part of the sales team, because I took the time to listen to his concern, and we ended up finding a solution together. So taking the time and just resonate with your client.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think anybody out there that's listening to us right now, excuse me, and kind of gets what we're saying as far as transferable talent, and they think like I have the talent, and this is an industry I'd be interested in. We connected actually online over a post I did about commission versus salary. And I would love to kind of get your thoughts on this because you're still relatively new in the business. And, I think for anybody out there that's listened to us talk about transferable talents, this is a great place for them to be. But, right now, I don't know if we're necessarily hitting the mark as far as how our pay structures are created. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts behind, commission versus salary, and does our current pay structures attract new talent?
So I did have concerns with that at the beginning when I came in. Of course, I had the stigma of the car sales, and then when was the 100% commission is. I said, okay, I'm probably good in a year's time from now when I have the experience. But what's going to take me from zero to hero, and how can I pay the bills in between? And for me, the dealership had a great structure that I thought helped me at the time. There was no pandemic, of course. So they had a strong structure where I was able to bank some commissions from those car sales, and while I was on a salary. So once the salary cut off, I had enough to survive for a couple months as I'm building more sales. So I was fine with that, and I still believe it was a good structure. But I also believe that moving forward, I think there needs to be a lot of thought put around that. And how can we attract, is it salary based? I know we briefly touched on that. I really don't know what the magic formula would be. But that being said, I love being 100% commission right now because of my mindset. And it also, there's no plateau. I'm responsible to making my own salary.
Yep.
I've given myself multiple salary increase, which I love when I say that to my wife. I just gave myself a pay raise.
That's awesome.
But you have to treat every single deal the same way. If you're 100%, like I refuse to treat a client one way because I know I'm going to make a big pay on this deal, and the other one is $200 minimum.
For sure.
I refuse to think of that, and I will strongly, just by heart, serve everybody the same way, and it all balances out at the end of the year. But if you don't have that mindset, I think the commission base can be detrimental to the customer experience and the service you provide.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not necessarily saying that I have the right answer. I definitely do think, though, that we need to have a conversation around it. Not only because it is 2021, but also because the impact that COVID has had on our industry. I think finding and attracting new talent is going to be a very big topic moving into this year. And I think the way our pay structures are set up right now, and also, our constant, trying to find that next superstar for our sales team is just, I think there's going to be a lot more focus around the team and how people connect with the team, interact with the team. So that will ultimately, kind of determine who we bring on board. And I think the way we compensate people moving forward is going to have to kind of fundamentally change. I think the experience itself has gotten, look, we talked about this earlier at the very beginning. The fact that the customer's new expectation is that we not meet the expectation, but exceed the expectation, that is the new expectation, says a lot about what we have to do as an industry. And our pay structures have to change for that. Look, you know what? I know it's getting towards the tail end of our time, and I'm confident we could probably jam about this for probably a good another solid hour. But before I let you go, though, for everybody that's been watching and listening to us talk, for this period, what is and they want to connect with you? What is the best way to do so they can kind of continue the conversation or follow along with your journey?
I think social media platforms are a great way to connect. It's so easy to follow somebody and send just a quick private message, and I'm getting them on a daily basis, and I try to respond to every single one of them. And so whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook, I do have a little Facebook page as well. Feel free to reach out to me. Yvan Mercedes, I guess in French, for my French contacts will know what that means. It means he sells Mercedes in French. But so please just reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram, and I'll be happy to just have fun, share your personal side of who I am.
That's awesome. And I really encourage anybody out there that's watching and listening right now to connect. I think there's just a lot that we can learn when we connect and when we continue these conversations. Yvan, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been so much fun. You have yourself an amazing day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy Mob podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to sign up to be a mobster at strategymob.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.